What's up, boys?
Done.
It's
Hey,
this is episode 30.
3-0?
30.
I think so.
The big 3-0.
We're out of our 20s now, so it's downhill. This is when you have to start wearing the pit diaper. Did you see that?
I think you mentioned that on one of the other.
It's the pit diaper. Well, you got fascinated with it. The ability to just take a piss while you're watching the show, which at some punk shows you could do anyway. You know.
Oh, you meant the punk show, not this show. Oh, okay.
I'm going right now.
I'm I'm really surprised, Ron, you're not repping the Steph jersey for episode 30.
Yeah. Oh shit! I didn't even think of that.
God damn it!
I'll be right back.
You know, for a doctor, we're pretty worried about.
You've been on a bit of a tear lately.
Well, a bit of what? Yeah. We're doing all right. We're doing all right. And now that the Nuggets fired Mike Malone, and we got a shot at getting up there.
Yeah. Very good. 30. 3-0.
Yeah.
Fuck me.
I know, man.
Yeah, crazy.
Thought like no one, literally no one.
Yeah, like stunned. Actually, that's true. Literally no one, because we were trying to figure out what in the hell to talk about today, and we've asked several times for one of our 6 listeners to just pipe up, just throw us a little bit of something.
Yeah.
And we get nothing. There's nothing at all. So why would you ever think we'd get to 30?
Colette does. Like that's pretty cool. Like a
spreadsheet?
Like because I think if I had what she does is like she said there's a spreadsheet and people put questions in there.
No, I think that's some fancy wizardry that populates a spreadsheet.
Yeah, probably like putting in something that our listeners could populate on their own as a recipe for all kinds of.
It's already sounding like hard work.
I think the content's not going to be great.
And between the LinkedIn and the merch store, I don't think Ben has any more time.
Definitely with the merch store. Sorry, we're not taking on any clients right now. We've got a podcast. So. Some important shit. Boys, who's behind you there?
Who, me?
I don't know.
This here is a 90s emo punk band called Texas is the Reason, which is a bit of a...
Texas is part of the reason.
It's part of the reason for all kinds of things. That
Florida is also.
It's definitely a reason.
Big part of the reason. And of course it's emo punk.
Yeah.
Ron, because if there's anything we expect from you, it's the emo.
Hardcore. Sound man.
Emo core.
Wherever it's how I roll.
Any new tattoos? I feel like I'd have heard about it.
I feel like I'm starting to get that itch though, so I need to
That's an infection.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Ron, if you don't get like a spider web on your head, I'm going to be really disappointed.
Fucking good.
Yes.
Yeah, like Tim Armstrong style.
Yes, it's on.
Sick.
What about you, Dave?
You can always wear a hat to cover it up. It'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be all right.
That's work appropriate.
I've got an Australian sort of garage rock, sort of post-punk band called the Drunk Mums. Thought that's sort of appropriate for you fellas.
Wait, why is that appropriate for us?
Just in general. Like, I mean, what else are you gonna do in if you're living in the States at the moment other than day drink?
Yeah, not tequila or scotch or anything that.
No, nothing imported.
No, we're gonna start making scotch in the United States.
Yeah, I don't think you can call it scotch. It's like champagne. I think.
Oh, fuck.
We can call it anything we want. Gulf of America.
Exactly. Gulf of America.
Dave, tattoos? Nothing?
No, nothing. Nothing.
Me neither. But I do have a cool band behind me. That's I think Denver or Colorado Springs, maybe. It's a Colorado band. Cheap Perfume. Uh, Pretty kick-ass live. Izzy and I saw him open for the opener, or open for the opener's opener. I don't know. Pretty early on in a show one time, but they have a good song called "It's Okay to Punch Nazis." It's a pretty good thing to just turn up to 11 and fucking rock out to. It's a nice reminder right now too.
That's pretty great. That's all right. I'm gonna have
All
to give
right.
that.
So here
So
we are, episode 30.
So 30.
a usual
Which
6 or 8 minutes of bullshit.
Yeah, was
well, and
that felt like
I don't
long.
know. Well,
Much shorter.
before. Yeah, I mean, before we hit record. Here's the thing. I mean, I would have thought episode 30 we'd have prepped a little because it feels like a milestone, and we did not, shockingly.
Mm.
No.
So we had about 3 minutes of preparatory phone call
We can
here.
we can burn some more time though. What have you boys been up to?
Do, do we need to burn more time? Let's just
Waiting for something.
let's just get right into it. I think this is a good one, and
Well,
um you
what I'm,
know
so the thing
what?
I'm doing
Okay, doctor.
is I just started a job, and this is a segue. It's called a segue. It's called professionalism, guys.
Isn't that an
Look it
electric scooter?
up. Yes.
Yep. It's a metaphor for Run's career.
Yeah.
Electric scooter or Segway?
Takes off quick, falls over, takes a header.
Runs out of battery.
Yeah.
No one
Plays,
respects it.
plays with little kids.
Ron has a new job.
Have a new
Um,
job, and we were talking about, like what is that? What am I doing? Like, what are the first things? What the fuck
what am I doing here?
What am I doing?
No, that's what usually my coworkers ask.
A lot of people have been talking about that.
But yeah, so like this is a brand new company. We're starting, building things up, pretty much from scratch. And it kind of begs an interesting question. What do you do if you start
What do
from
you do here?
yeah.
What would you, if you could start, would you even call it a I'm not, but yeah, I don't know. You wouldn't call it a safety program or a system or what have you. I don't know. If you could start fresh and you're the safety person, what would you do for the first? I don't know. Dave said 100 days, but I think that was a conversion problem. I think it's 90, I
Those are
think.
metric days.
Well, no,
That's Australian dollars, which I'm sure now are like rupees
I mean,
or something.
if you guys floated around the C-suite at all, you'd understand there's these sayings in business for new CEOs, like the 100-day plan, to
I
diagnose.
always hear 30, 60, 90, but
They're fucking
I'm not
payment
a
terms, man. They're not. They're not.
I'm not. Oh, that's why I don't know.
Just
It's all a little fuzzy here with the
clearly
payment
about the
term.
fuck safety make money. You are.
Yeah.
Exactly. By the way, go buy a shirt from the merch
Here's one.
store.
I recommend the Circle Jerks one. It's
Yeah.
killer.
Yeah.
Killer.
So
All right, Ron, let
No
us know. What are we
copyright
doing?
infringement.
I can tell you what I'm doing, but I'm curious what you guys would do.
Well, you'd have to start with a set of life-saving rules, wouldn't you?
Yeah, yes. Clearly, you have to set boundaries and
Straight off the bat, just
hard lines. What first thing I would do is define what's going to get someone fired here.
Sure. Well, I'd go a little further back. It takes a while to get signs printed. So, especially the one with the mirror that says you're looking at the person responsible for say, and then the, days without incident sign. You're going to want it customized. So if you want a logo on it, you got to order that quick.
so that being said, though, like
I'm a merch guy.
the signs and the life-saving rules aside, I don't think it would be a bad thing to get your executive together. And I know, Ron, you've got like probably only an executive in the company at the moment, but get your get your executive together and come up with a one-pager. What do we want for safety in this organization? What does it look like? What does it feel like? I hesitate to
When do we
say
want it? Now.
like a set of guiding principles because most of the time we talk about principles, they're fucking stupid things like the hop five and that sort of thing. But but, but if you could just come up with a like, what do we want?
Wow. Coming in
Wow.
hot.
Yeah.
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 Well,
Shots
if you,
fired.
well, I wouldn't start with that. If you cast your mind forward 3 or 5 years, what would we want, safety to look like and feel like in our organization? So I don't mind the idea of a one pager that the executive all can buy into that can guide kind of like development of programs, decisions, um, things like that.
What would you, so like, you're talking about like principles or things like that. What kinds of things go into that?
I think just a description, more so like be descriptive. Like if we could describe what we want our organization to be in relation to safety, how would we describe it? And I think if you can come up with a narrative for what you want it to be, then it can be, the narrative that guides all of the development, all of the decision making, all of the stuff that comes later. Um,
Yeah, I don't I think what you said earlier, Dave, about maybe staying away from the principles or things that get printed on the wall of the
yeah,
newly minted boardroom is the right thing to do. But um something that's worked for us too is that narrative. People I think get hung up on what a narrative ought to be or what it looks like, and so we just try to record people. Just have a conversation
like secretly in their bathroom or what?
secret secretly. It's a toilet cam. It's an
Excellent.
audio recording, Dave.
No, no,
Uh,
no. You're staying in room number 13.
but just sit down with executives and have that conversation, right? Where it's a little more organic and open. It's a lot easier in conversation to describe what you think something, in that land of milk and honey, what it's going to look like. Um, 3 or 5, or in Ron's case, 100. All he needs is 100 days. So um,
I have.
to reach the promised land, don't fuck up. You have 100 days. No, but I think, look, if you find that you're sitting with leaders and you're having a little trouble, getting something pen to paper, um, I think people get worked up about that
Yeah.
when you can just tell a bit of a story about it and then maybe sit down and try to summarize that.
So, so you guys, so what I'm hearing is like, okay, we come
No,
up with like some sort of like guiding set of whatever we want to call it.
There has to be a tone, right? There has to be a tone and a direction, right? So,
Are the different than
yeah.
principle?
Well, I just think that, well, yeah, they could be. But the only challenge with principles, I think, is that often they fall short of being descriptive enough to give people an aligned sense of what they mean. So a principle that's got 3 or 4 words um, can be interpreted in different ways by different people. That's why I'm sort of saying like company values and principles. I think I'd do more than that. It'd be like a if you want to do that, it'd be like 5 paragraphs. So don't just say, you know, this is what we want in terms of the tone for safety in our organization. It would be, and this is what this means. Um, that's why I was sort of steering away from the word principles.
Ben, what do you think?
I think, I think principles aren't, I mean, to Dave's point, they're not descriptive enough, right? You can, in things other than safety or organizations, principles can be represented just as an equation or something like that, right? And I think you have to think
So
about it that way.
here we go,
Gravity
Bayesian
exists.
networks. There you go.
Fuck yeah.
It is.
Well, gravity exists. It doesn't fucking help me sort out how to do
Well, it didn't exist
a
until an apple
launch.
fell.
And look, if you're conspiratorial, maybe it still doesn't. It's a flat Earth.
Yeah.
Still,
And if William Tell
still.
had been there, it wouldn't have hit the ground. Anyway,
You tried terraping measles yet? Anyway, go ahead.
Now, I think that's it. A first principle is the basis for some of this other reasoning, but it's only the basis, and maybe not to the extent that you need to regurgitate it all the fucking time. Right? I don't have to start every conversation with sort of basic first principles of science.
yeah.
At some point we just have a conversation about what it looks like.
even
Yeah,
think, yeah,
Dave.
I'm just thinking more about that now, and you know, I'd almost sit down and start with, every element that I know is going to be part of safety and try to do that sort of like tone and direction. So I go, okay, senior leadership. What is that going to look like in our organization? Contractor management, what's that going to look like? Our management system, what's that going to look like? Our frontline workforce,
Sounds
what's
like
that?
a lot of joint activity.
It is a lot of joint activity. You could even describe the interfaces between these elements if you could sort of find someone who knew some stuff about that.
Mm.
But in any case, I think you could just start to
Like,
set because what's going to happen over the next 12 or 20, sorry,
It's just good.
what's going
Well,
to
those
happen over the next
boundaries are going to emerge, right? You're going to need to do
Yeah, but
something
what
about
what's going to happen over the next 12 or 24 months is you're going to be starting to build, your contractor management systems and processes. You're going to build out your management system. You're going to be developing training for leaders. You're going to be doing all this sort of programmy stuff. And I think having some consistency of direction for, those different things and alignment between those different things could be, I mean, I've never done it, but it could be uh, a useful starting point.
it.
But it'd be kind of cool to sit down with an executive at the start of the company and say, what do we want this to look like? Let's not fuck it up along the way.
Mhm.
Well, I think especially in I don't know if you'd call it a startup or not, Ron, but it's a
Our company, yeah,
sure
it's startup.
startup, new company, whatever it is, right?
Tech
New entry to
adjacent.
a market, but people tech adjacent, but people do get heads down. And I kind of think about this in the same way as you've got a new supervisor, a new manager, even in an existing company, right? That introduces some funkiness there if we're talking about where risk lives or where interfaces start breaking down and where communication is challenging. I mean, you've got all that, but sort of all at once at the start, at the onset of this thing. So I think, boy, it's a lot of sitting down and co-creating some of those things Dave was talking about, right? What is this going to look like with a contractor? And your view may differ pretty radically than the person that's managing most of those relationships. So
Mm.
good to have that sorted before you have the first contractor and all this joint activity across. I mean, I don't want to throw you right into it, Ron, but I think this is up your alley.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Um, no, yeah, no, this is good. It's actually so far pretty consistent with the general direction I'm heading. So one thing I
Of
would
course it
say,
is.
Well, then
Of
we
course it
should
is.
change
Of
it.
course it is.
no, so
Fuck.
actually there is an area where I disagree a little bit with.
Okay, good.
So, like I agree that on the with regarding the principles, like if you just come in there and like we're just going to do the hot principles, that I think is going to fall flat a lot of times because to me, what makes a principle valuable is not whether it's like well specified or not, it's whether it connects with people in a way that like they can see how that helps them make decisions in the moment, right? Because you're never going to fully specify, whether it's a principle or a procedure or anything, right? Like that's by definition, they're all underspecified. Um, and
You're
so
Try
underspecified.
try harder.
you're well,
Fucking lazy.
no, that's the golden rules. Those, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, but no, so like, yeah, to me, I think starting with, okay, here's, some things that we think are good, you know, whatever,
It's a good meeting. Here are
whatever,
things we think
Think.
good.
well, that we
I
want to move towards, I think makes a ton of sense, right? Like now I will say that for me, I think coming to the table with some ideas to get people started helps.
That's crazy.
Unless people are open to it, like and to your point, Ben, about wanting to, if you have a conversation with them and they're like, yeah, hey, here's my experience, here's what I think is good. And so far in conversations I've had, there's a lot of people in the organization that are like that, and then there's some that are not that are more like, hey, what do you want to do? Which is fine. It is what it is. No, I think I think, The principal.
You
Ron
drink
just
the
wears
stuff
this
out of the Pringles can first.
Ron just wears this shirt around that says token safety guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Sexy as hell. I think I don't know. I think you guys that's an important part of it, like starting off what's the kind of tone we want to have. And the reason I think that's really valuable is because from a complexity standpoint, you can't specify anything. So if you just think about
So you
I'm just
just give up now.
of like Gerd Gigerenzer's work, right? Like
You
faster.
just
It
wanted
sounds
to
like a
say it.
made up name.
I love that name, and I kind of want to say it again, and so I'm gonna. Gerd
Giggity.
Gigerenzer. Say it. It's just a fun name. Gerd Gigerenzer. Gerd Gigerenzer. And so yeah, his work on ecological psychology and things like that. About being fast and frugal, right? That's what heuristics are, like mental shortcuts. And so I can see how coming up with like, okay, when we're faced with a problem we don't know the answer to, we don't have a procedure for, we don't have a process for, what do we want to guide us in those moments? And if we just like as a group agree, I think there's some value there. I don't know. What do you guys think of that?
Or at least have talked about it, right? Even if
Exactly.
you don't agree. And I think, I mean, to your point about specificity, right? You may not nail the thing down, but the fact that you're having discussions about, what noticing looks like, when we think it's going well. I was thinking too about, I think it's easy in those early conversations, and whether that's new leadership taking over in an organization or a new organization altogether, is to those things kind of go sideways sometimes into things that seem measurable, right? And I think you really have to bring folks back to, Dave used the word tone. I think you said it too, Ron, but this is about tone, not about measurement. We're talking about how we think and feel and believe,
Yeah.
sort of in an overarching way, not this is our goal that we're going to hit with numbers.
Yeah. I was just starting to think about, how what we're talking about would apply to existing companies. You mentioned like a new leadership team, and even if a new safety team or a new head of safety came in and wanted to sort of course correct or adjust the organization, could sort of follow along this conversation and do some similar things, but you'd have a lot of organizational unlearning to do. Um, I think, Ron, on your in more of a startup situation, you don't have the organizational unlearning, but you've definitely got individual unlearning to do. Like you said, the conversations are good with some people, but other people, your words, fuckheads. Like, so um, I think,
I think you really missed an opportunity for your new vocab word, though, from the other day. Chuckle fucks.
oh, chuckle
Chuckle.
fucks, you
Yeah.
chuckle fucks, get in here. We need to talk. Um, But I think I'd actually probably be, you know, very early thinking about what does my organizational induction program look like? Because what you want as people come into the business is to get that individual unlearning as they come in. So now you can train, 20 or 30 people in your startup, and then I was going to say, you don't want to say brainwash or drink the Kool-Aid, but you're coming
No, I
into
mean,
this,
that's it. Right.
you're
Mushrooms and electricity.
because you got to control the gate, right? You got to control all the shit ideas from coming through the gate as you grow. And I think a company induction program would be something really important, so this thing doesn't get out of control. If you get
I
the
think just
executive,
call it re-education because it
Yeah.
sounds fun.
Ronication,
On occasion.
Oh,
Ron,
I dream of on occasion.
a dream of Ronication.
Um,
Good song.
yeah, so,
I see what you did
um,
there.
you
Bit of
like that?
Chili Willy.
Chili Willies.
We want
Californication.
Chili Willy.
Yeah. No, I mean you're right, and I think there's, obviously there's a balance you got to walk with, right? Because you don't want to like, bet to your point, Ben, like you don't want to make it too like fucking Orwellian over here.
I
Um,
mean,
but
good.
you do want to, I think you want to like orient people to like, hey, here's kind of the direction we're headed. Um, so they don't run off in their own directions. Because one of the things that you also find in these situations, in my experience, is in your absence, people don't just stand around twiddling their thumbs waiting for you to go. Like sometimes people will develop their own shit to kind of help you solve
Like what,
problems.
every Thursday, Friday when you're down the pub? Is that what you mean by absence, or what? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so like when you before I came on board, like there's people were doing stuff. They had to find a way to fill in some of the functions that now I'm starting to fill in this organization, and so which is not bad. It is what it is, right? But like if people don't know, they come in the door, they're what new project manager or whatever. And they're like, okay, well, I know part of my project is I'm going to have this safety, you know, function for this project. I better start creating that on my own. If they don't really already know that, like, oh, actually, hey, we've got this stuff over here that can help you, and here's kind of the direction we're headed with it.
Just give it to Ron. He'll do it.
Ron will do it.
Yeah. I think that's yeah. I think induction will play a big role. And I don't know. I think you can push the boundaries and not freak out your industry, right? Like you can do audits in your own way. You can do investigations in your own way. You can do
Whoa,
contracting in your own
audits.
way.
Boy,
Oh,
you
look
got
at Ben.
excited.
Ben just got a hard on. It's
He got
like
so excited just
if
then.
you're not watching the YouTube now, like
Just say it's not safe for work.
let's just say, Jesus.
Boy, do I love an audit.
But I know,
At
look, you're going to
least
have.
according to these guys.
I mean, you're going to need to integrate, with clients and contractors. So I don't think you can. I don't think you'd be crazy with what you call stuff, but you can definitely do stuff however you like.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things that I've been spending a lot of time doing over the last few days too, to that point, is starting to look at different, for lack of a better word, I can't think there's probably a better word than this. I hate this word, but stakeholders and starting to like, okay, what are
Are they
their
waiters at like at the steakhouse? Is that what they are?
yeah,
They're
yeah,
they're
that's
at a witch hunt holding stakes
yeah, the
to stab
stakeholder
people with.
They're like
case.
wooden steaks though, not like cow
Yeah.
steaks.
Yeah, yeah.
No, no, well, it's both. They have two hands, man. They can
Both
But what
um,
are they using to hold the torch or the pitchfork or something?
teeth. Teeth.
yeah.
Straight in the mouth.
Oh, teeth.
You not have imagination. Um,
Well, clearly not. We don't usually storm our capital with pitchforks, so it's all
oh,
kind
you
of
should try it.
There's still time.
It's breathtaking.
it's
We
all kind of
don't
new.
usually. I don't know.
Um,
Kind of
but
surprised you guys are a bit subdued lately. I'm kind of surprised that you guys are sitting there and taking it all.
The
like,
two of us
Yeah,
or
well,
I think
everybody.
you need to remember which side stormed the Capitol and who's in charge right now. Just do that math, and I think
Yeah.
you'll.
oh, it's
Um,
fine. I just think that the other side is just showing a bit too much weakness.
it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's called rule of law. It's not really working out for us very
If
well.
they tried harder,
I'm not
Uh,
sure both sides are following the same rule book.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
Ron,
But
I oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to stop you there.
oh no, I just so like I just want to finish that thought is identifying, okay, what are the goals, what are the pressures and the trade-offs that these other entities that are going to, have a say or at least be a part of whatever program I'm creating, like customers, internal, folks that I know I'm going to have to do reports to, contractors, blah blah blah, all the above, just kind of mapping that out and trying to see, okay, what are the things that they're going to be worried about and how can I make sure that what it is that yes, I want to do my own thing. I want to do some stuff that I think is pretty cool and interesting and fun, but if I'm not also meeting their needs, it's gonna fall apart. So I need to understand what those challenges that they're facing are and see make sure that I'm trying to at least A, not make it worse for them, but B, maybe I can have some stuff that actually helps.
I think one of the cool things about having 10 or 15 or 20 people in a company
I thought you
as
were
you're
going to say
starting
listeners,
off.
and I was going to say, just,
No,
oh,
no,
What are we
shit.
double? What's
Oh,
happening? Triple?
like
whoa.
one of the
No,
thing
no.
about having 15 or 20 listeners, I'm like, who do you think you are, Joe
Yeah.
Rogan? Fuck's sake.
God, we're years. I was gonna say we're years away, but honestly, they're dropping like flies, right? In a year, it's two listeners probably. We're going the wrong way, but the merch store will be twice as big.
No, no, I think we're okay. I think we're not. I don't think we're in the
Yeah, there'll
decline
be
yet.
two listeners because I don't listen to the podcast.
Exactly. I
You can at
what I
least
was
set your
saying,
Spotify to
not
auto download every episode. So, I mean, we don't care if you
at
listen or not.
least
We
we,
just
yeah,
I
those are
actually
rookie
do.
numbers.
I do.
Rookie numbers, right?
rookie. Those are
But
rookie
but
numbers.
look, when you get 15 or 20 people in a company, it's a it's a little easier to see, maybe how power distribution is going to shake out, right? Um, there's only so many places we talk about locus of control and these sorts of things in other um, episodes, but it's a lot it's a lot more manageable to sort of work through some of those things. If you're trying to sort out when change happens, how do we anticipate these things? There's less stuff, it's happening at speed, and everybody can be pretty overwhelmed in a startup. But your span of information that you're trying to take in is a little smaller. So I think being experimental with folks at sort of the edges of where you're hoping to operate before it's full tilt boogie is cool. Being able to say, I don't know, I mean, let's try this, see what happens.
Yeah,
Like,
I actually think
there's
you're
less
right.
shit to break, I think.
I think Ron needs to sort of deliberately work on influence because you're right. As you get some hardcore project directors in the organization that want to run their own fucking show and um, you know, want to marginalize health and safety and want to do things, I think you want to be a really influential role in the organization and thinking deliberately about that.
Just put your notice in now, Ron. It's just gonna get rowdy. You don't want all
But
that
that's what I
noise.
think the induction helps with. Anyone coming into a leadership
This
position
guy really,
gets
I
a
mean, he's really an HR guy.
fucking love it.
Do they call it HR in Australia? Human
Well,
resources?
HR.
Business, your HR business partner.
our I don't know what this is going to say, but we've got a small little startup going at ForgeWorks as well, and we do have a
Here we
HR
go.
we got a HR policy, and it's one line that just says if the police don't have a problem with it, we don't have a problem with it. Um,
Ah,
that's
So the key is making sure they don't know.
yeah,
well,
exactly.
again, it's a bit like the principles conversation. In the absence of
Yeah,
description, you can interpret that in any way you like.
sure. Yeah. Is it that they would have a problem or they do because they know? And I'm going to go with,
Semantics, right?
do they
Like
know?
it's all
Like that Arrested
semiotics or
Development,
something.
Arrested Development
But I,
lawyer.
but I,
You've
but
been
I think the
accused of a
idea
crime just because someone noticed.
I think the idea of every leader coming into the organization, while it's manageable, has to have a couple of hour one on one with Ron. But I think I'd be doing that if I was a head of safety and like I'm going, okay, project directors could fuck this up. Whatever it is, supply chain, contract managers, lawyers could fuck this up.
Ron has a
HR
fuck up list.
HR people could fuck this up. And
I've
so
gone to the trouble of a diagram to say how each of you could fuck this up.
Yes, you'll
and so
notice.
as they listen, chuckle fucks, as they come into the organization, have this kind of one-on-one induction and just like give you opportunity to connect, show them you kind of know what you're doing, that you're a good person, you're there to help them, give them early
Oh,
insight
fuck.
into the way that you want it to run, what their role is,
The
and
way you want it to run?
to run the way you want it to run. Yeah,
Yeah.
fuck you guys. You wait. You just
Come on, this is really good.
Yeah,
it's
Let's
you were on
talk
a
more
roll.
about HR. This
about
is
it.
now an HR podcast or HR, depending on where you are in the world.
Well, you take a few organizations like Josh, who is our normal third host of the podcast. So, but
More
Josh,
engaged anyway.
yeah, way more engaged. But Josh is a GM of people and safety, so they've sort of so Ron, you should make a play for HR as well as safety. And I mean,
Oh,
what you're doing, like you're saying you're tech adjacent, but in reality, you're hole digging adjacent. Like what you do, you're more hole, you're
oh,
more,
yeah. Yeah, I dig lots of holes for myself.
Story,
That is accurate.
story of Ron's life.
you're hole digging
Ditch,
adjacent, not tech
ditch
adjacent.
digging. That's what the D in PhD stands for.
Yeah. Hole digging, by the way, in
Yeah,
case you couldn't get that out of Dave's accent. Not dicking.
sticking.
Different. Hole digging.
Did it not
Just
sound
wanted
like
to
that to you?
enunciate.
That is an important clarification
There
point.
was a little danger there of misinterpretation.
Yeah, I'm HR. Who cares?
Exactly. And the police aren't going to have an issue if there was consent anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh
Come
my God. There are no rules
to
now.
consenting holes.
Organizations, yeah. Stakeholders.
But anyway,
Sounds
I
more
think you
efficient
boys
as
got
you
this a
call
little bit off the rails. Can we pull it?
it. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's just what HR would say. It is funny, and maybe it's different that you can kind of acclimate folks to it early on in an organization, but uh, Dave works with really high class clients, so maybe this is different from what I see. But a lot of folks, right? They've got a pretty packed training calendar, or meetings or whatever. So induction or even sort of recurrent, I don't know, touch points.
How many times do you induct people?
Well, I think calling it one and done though isn't all that helpful, right? You talk to the safety guy once, and then 5 years from now, you're like, I don't know, is that guy still here? Um, I think there has to be some sort of cycle on it, and that can be a pretty tough sell down the road.
Yeah, but there's ways of
Got
solving that. You
15 people.
like
Always ways of.
just put Ron as the company screensaver, right? Whenever anyone logs into their computer,
Done
it just
and done.
see Ron, and Ron can have a speech bubble with a thought for the day. Every
Oh,
day it could be a new thought for the day from Ron. And I mean, touch points, right? Frequency and recency. You know,
yep.
how often have I seen Ron? Every day. When was the last time? This morning.
Like Clippy,
Yeah.
man. It's
And
popping
that
in.
like Clippy. Yeah.
And the first would
Uh,
As
be,
long as
you're
the
looking at the
touch
person
points
who's
are
going to kick your
consensual.
ass when you break the rules.
That's right.
yeah, but I mean, I think you need some sort of. I mean, so we start off by setting that like, hey, here's what we're gonna go. But yeah, you do need some kind of, you know, I don't know, to kind of use terms
We're
and
giving
concepts.
you all the answers here, Ron.
Well,
You're like, yeah, I don't know. No,
Where do I
take
send the
listen,
invoice?
notes.
Jesus.
Yeah,
If you'd
yeah,
listened to the podcast, you'd have solved it already.
fine fucking Lee. But to kind of put it in cargo systems engineering terms, like
Oh,
what we're
I
doing is
was waiting.
what we're what we're doing is building common ground, right? But then
You know, you could have said common ground
It's not the
without the
exclusive
lead
no,
domain of
name.
because
Brazil.
I actually think that's important for me to say because the way people use common ground colloquially is not the same as what it's meant in CSE.
Are you, are you
It's true.
He's alienating people
I think that's the
already.
first time that
16
someone's
people in the
actually.
fucking company.
How far are we into this podcast? Who do you think we haven't alienated yet? Like, there's a good chance I'm getting fired from this fucking episode.
Like we've talked a lot about circle jerks, but I think with Ben there, that's the first time someone's actually jacked off on the podcast.
It was emotion for those
Yes,
of
it
you
was emotion.
not watching YouTube.
I didn't even see that.
Middle out. Oh, I mentioned middle out, and we were on a podcast, by the way. At this by the time this comes out, that will have been out. But if the middle out thing from Silicon Valley, have you guys seen that show?
The
You know what I'm
shorts.
talking about?
Only the
Did
shorts.
you? Oh man, you got to look it up. You want to start from the middle, the
And go out
DTF.
from there.
Well, dick to floor measurement is important.
I've seen the shorts for that. Yeah, stick to floor.
Yeah.
Average mean jerk time.
Ron's taking a middle out approach at this company.
Yeah. Well, two
All right,
hands.
I'm sorry. Cognitive system
I don't know what
engineering.
you're talking about. Um,
Cognitive systems.
Keep going, please. Common
Engineering.
ground. Common ground.
Sure.
no, you have to maintain it though, because it's easy to lose, right?
Sure.
Sure.
It's got to be something you actively
Particularly if you're
want.
Greenland or Canada or like it's
What?
Easy to lose.
easy to
Easy to
lose.
lose.
Easy to
That's fair.
lose your ground.
Or yeah. But no, yeah, I think that I mean that's a critical part here because if we're talking about like these principles or whatever the hell we call them from the beginning as like something we put in the induction that then will guide us like ways of thinking or ways of knowing how other people think about problems, how do you keep that, right? How do you maintain that? Because that's easy to create in like a conference room or even in a one-on-one conversation with someone.
Did he freeze? Oh, and like an awesome
But like we're
frozen.
out there
Oh,
doing
there he is.
projects.
Oh,
He, he
Oh man,
keeps
I didn't
freezing.
freeze at all. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. No, well, I got the question. How do you maintain it? I think a couple of things. I think you need to institutionalize it in
Induction.
your ways of working in your business processes, right? So making sure that they're designed consistent with what you're saying. But these things also just serve as anchor points, right? That that allow you to um, you know correct discussions, advise decisions and things like that. Like call things out when you see things not going in that direction. So it's never going to
Yeah, I
be
think
be
that's
perfect, but if you set a course, I think it's a really strong and well understood course, then hopefully the organization kind of meanders in the general direction that you want it to head in, as opposed to organizations that don't have like haven't taken the time to say where we want to be with these things, and then if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there, right? And people go, "Oh, well, why is this wrong?"
well, I think there's another option maybe too, is that you can have really well defined direction, but structures that work against it. And I think it's really tricky, and especially a quickly growing organization. Dave, you talked about ways of working and processes, and I think if you have visibility into that as that safety person or safety in HR, as it were, or HR, as it were, um, that's great. But sometimes those things happen quickly, and you don't have control over them. So all of a sudden we're talking about what's important and how it works and how information flows and where power centers are, and then we build these structures that are siloed off almost purposefully, and then get surprised when it doesn't pan out the way we talked about in the induction.
Yeah. I wonder though, so like I mean there's definitely something to be said with we set a good direction, but why does the organization, and we want to keep it from meandering too far, but why does the organization meander? It's not doing it randomly. It's doing it relative to other goals and pressures. And so it begs the point, like, how much flexibility should we give for that meandering to be able to identify, hey, actually, you know what? We thought this was a good direction to go initially, but no, actually, now that we're into it, this other way of going or this adjustment is actually positive.
I
How
think
much
Dave might say it's like guided adaptability.
I think that's a
think?
wonderful. Tell me more.
It's the
Who
guardrails,
wrote
right?
that
I mean
paper?
but that's sort of I think the question,
The
right?
other Dave.
How much meandering is okay? And I think when an organization is small is a really good time to experiment with that, right? Um, you can move fast, you can correct quickly when things don't go as you planned. If we start off with really tight constraints and then sort of lose track of other elements of the organization as it grows, all of a sudden you do have project managers that just go, well, I don't know what these fucking guys want, we'll solve it. and there's all sorts of meandering happening. I think like the most important thing to the adaptability piece is visibility into it, right? Of if you don't know it's happening, it's pretty tough to learn
And
from it. So kind of building that in.
and I think the shit we try to control is so far down in the weeds, right? And maybe connecting back to the first conversation we had, like if you have the right narratives around the general direction that certain aspects of management take. So the general direction of leadership, the general direction of contractor engagement, the general direction of these things, then you let people adjust to context, right? Okay, you don't need to do this 30-page pre-qualification with every single contractor. If you just need to get a subby in for 3 hours to just fix something because some work's emerged, then sort it out consistent with these principles, but like don't bog the business down in process. Let them adjust consistent with the sort of direction. So you need to do some kind of capability evaluation. If in that context there's a different way that you're going to assess capability, and if you know you can apply more direct supervision if you haven't had the time to do the capability assessment, like giving people kind of like this guided way of like the best guided way of adapting to context is great. Like, why do you want to make sure that everyone's filled out the form? Like, kind of who cares? Um,
That comes back to what you were talking about before, Dave, is that really clear picture of what it looks like when we're doing it well. Because I think people they do work to rule, right? Or they it's this learned helplessness, I guess, of saying, well, that's it. I got to fill out 30 pages because they don't have that clarity of, look, man, we hired you on purpose because we thought you could do the job without me babysitting you the whole time. Here's what that looks like in an ideal scenario. If I can't describe that, I think then it is a natural response to just say, well, fuck it, I'm filling out the form every time. Why wouldn't I? It's scary to do something else, especially when there's only 16 of you to blame for things.
Nah, not it. But
Can't
but
hide very well.
I think that's a good point because a lot of times the process is, designed to achieve some sort of overarching goal, but like over time, those two things often, in my experience, get disconnected, and the process becomes the goal. And that's when you get that sort of like,
yeah.
"Well, you just gotta fucking do it." People don't understand how it helps them, or maybe doesn't, like, because that's one of the advantages of making sure there's a good coupling between your processes and your goals. Is then people can start to question, well, hey, yeah, I want to achieve this goal. That's important, but like this checklist doesn't fucking do that for me in this particular project.
Yeah.
So what can I do? And then you can start adjusting,
And
adapting.
just as a call out, the people who go around talking about this idea of safety theater as if they've magically invented some particular way of thinking about work and organizations, the institutional work theory for a long time have talked about performative and instrumental work. So the performative work is the go through the motions and put on the performance of work, which is like the process. And then the instrumental work is the stuff that actually delivers outcomes in the organization.
Like this podcast
Well,
is
a lot like this
really
podcast. So, but
instrumental work.
but you got to make sure
Result.
that you're always delivering outcomes through any process. But I'd also challenge yourself, Ron, like with and I'm talking to you because you're in this situation.
How
Well,
do I get any fucking
specifically,
homework out of this?
Well,
specifically,
but when
you
we talk
should
about
be.
guided sort of adaptability and adapting to context, it'd be good for a health and safety team to challenge themselves to say, what are 3 ways we could solve all of these problems? Because most of our management systems just have one way of doing stuff, right? One way of doing stuff. And you say, okay, what do we need to do? We need to assess the capability of contractors. Challenge yourself as a health and safety team to write 3 different ways that people in the business could do that, right? And then you're giving people your entire management system is like in triplicate, um, with different permutations and combinations of different elements and things. And it's a bit like Ben, made famous for his choose your own adventure talk the other week. But you
Yeah.
could literally like, if this, then, here's some guidance. If this, then here's some guidance. So thinking about the different types of contexts your business might find itself in relation to aspects of your safety management system and give them some fucking help, right? Like, don't just say, follow the system, or do something else. Here's ABC. Pick one that's close, because then if they pick one that's close, then they might only have to adapt that one a little bit, as opposed to picking just one and going, this is nowhere near what we need. So anyway, just an interesting um, thought exercise for health and safety teams. Can you solve each thing in your safety management system more than one way?
And you should make a choose your own adventure book out of it.
All right.
Yeah.
I think it'd
Uh,
be a pretty solid approach.
yeah, I
If
think
you are in this situation, go to page 69. If you're in this situation, go to page.
If you choose to be in this situation, yeah.
whoops, you died. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
You
Whoops,
choose
you had
you choose to ignore all these things.
yeah.
prepare
Um,
your presentation for the board for next month.
yeah, exactly. Um, but I mean, to that end, Dave, one of the other things too that I think I have the unique opportunity to do too is to another one of your papers. I can I can
Jesus.
identify what anything that I want to be really intentional with this, what anything I do create. Okay, yes, there's a goal and there's a process to achieve that goal, but how? Like, and then we can go and validate that later. Like, is it actually doing what we intended it to do? If not, we can adjust it, get rid of it, whatever we need to do. Right? It just makes it way easier later on to validate these processes that we're putting in place. Because after a while, they're just going to get a life of their own if we don't kind of manage it on the front end.
Yeah, I think that safety clutter avoidance strategy is necessary.
Safety clutter avoidance strategy. Look at that. SCAS. That's a good acronym.
It's a bit close to SCAD, though. Mike and Dave might get a bit upset.
SCAS. It's almost SCAS.
Scar, we could make that. Safety clutter
Safety
with
clutter
safety clutter with a
avoidance.
K, motherfucker. Safety.
Clutter avoidance.
It's like,
Oh, that,
Ska.
and we're
Can we
gonna
just call
do
it
it,
ska avoidance?
and you got to do it in the you got to do the clutter with a K in the like the corn text font. You know, like like get a corn shirt. Just all right,
fuck yes.
metal motherfuckers.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
So good.
perfect. God. Ska avoidance, I think, is really the takeaway. So first 100 days, avoid ska.
Correct.
Keep the ball rolling.
Did we solve it? Did you guys write my 100-day plan for me?
Yeah, you're sorted.
Fuck
Yeah, I
yes.
mean, on the really remote chance you listen to this, I think it'd be helpful.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just think
Like
that
if
this is
you
just.
went back and listened,
I think this
100% no.
no this episode is a mandatory part of the induction. That
This is the introduction.
that'd help to pump our numbers up, Ron, if you can put this episode in your induction program.
Oh my fucking God, yes. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. Yeah. No, it's good. I think the idea of, just kind of summing it all up, and this is actually consistent with where I'm headed anyway.
Of
yeah,
course
of
it is.
course.
Yeah, well, yeah, because I didn't fucking need you guys. You guys don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. You don't
Sure.
even know what awesomeness I'm concocting right now. Um,
Thanks
is
for tolerating us.
Yeah, well, it's for the show. The kids like it.
For the kids.
Yeah. But no, I like to me it building those principles right away that help and get on that same page, and then giving us a place to adjust from um
Yeah.
makes sense to me.
So when does this episode come out, Ben?
Oh, fuck. I don't know. Later.
Later. I'm just wondering how soon on an episode we can start talking about Seahole again.
Oh, I would start talking. I mean, people have to plan.
There's Banff happening before then, isn't there? Sorry.
Yeah. National Safety Council has a hop conference. Hop, sure. It's a day of hopping. Banff is happening. Seahole, though, June 16th. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
week. Yep.
In sunny Columbus, Ohio. Great place in June. You and Vitz are going to be there, right?
Yeah, we've got a contingent across. I've got a keynote.
Yeah, you do.
What? Look at this guy.
I've got to two workshops
2 workshops. I'm coming to both.
Monday. I think you got to pay
No,
Uh,
I'm
Monday,
co-facilitating.
Monday and Friday with Gareth Locke. If you don't know Gareth, he's a good cat. Gareth and I are going to be
All
doing
right.
some.
Maybe we should do a Seahole preview episode.
Oh, we should. We'll just read
We'll go through.
really slowly read the agenda
No, we'll go.
with some commentary.
Yeah,
They're
it's like when you go through, you
not
know.
good.
that guy, you can miss that one. That guy sucked.
Yeah,
I wouldn't do that.
they all suck.
Yeah.
Are we going to do a live from Seahole?
If Ron's
We
going to
couldn't
put
figure
in
it
an
out
appearance,
last year.
from
Like
there?
we weren't allowed to do YouTube live yet, right? We were too new.
Didn't we ended up on a did we get live streamed last time?
oh, you two did. You two chuckle fucks did with Georgina.
We weren't live streamed, were we?
Yeah, you were.
It was live.
Oh, wow.
That happens. We're live streaming the live stream.
Oh, with commentary. Yeah.
I love it.
Just talking through it the whole time. Oh, that's
History Science Theater 3000.
Yeah. One of those shitty YouTube videos about people reacting to other people.
Yes. Brilliant.
It's good to know that we're putting 6 to 8 minutes of rubbish at the end of these podcasts as well.
Oh, fuck yeah. More bullshit.
This is gold.
All right,
Well,
done.
look, we solved it. That's 30 in the can.
You can. Next
Do
one.
it again next time.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.